Here and Dave, thank you for coming in this morning.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, man.
It was kind of funny how I met you. You're really into startups. And at first I thought you wanted, if anybody doesn't know Dave has a passion for startups and businesses and the business model, whether that's the psychology behind business or the more accounting and systems part of business. But you've been around, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Portland metro area kind of incubator scene for quite a while?
I have.
Yeah.
My career started out advertising, design, branding. Used to be a creative director and started working with large companies, Nike's, Microsoft, Intel, things like that. And I wanted to teach people what I knew about it, and so I started doing some workshops, and this was about 2014, and it shocked me that out of my workshops, probably 75% of the people that showed up were startups. They were solo founders, and I kind of twisted my head. I'm like, well, wait a minute, that wasn't who I thought was going to show up to these. And started learning about the scene that was going on in Portland and what was really going on. And I just love the connection and the passion that founders are doing. It's just so different to marketing communications in those larger companies. You're just so much more connected and so much more raw, and you just have so much more influence that I just fell in love with it.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. So where do you see the startup community today in Portland? I know Portland's getting a lot of talk about, the safety and just things like that going on in Portland.
Yeah.
Is it kind of is there any entrepreneurs that you're seeing on the radar still coming out of Portland?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it's always cyclical, right? And 2014, I think we were kind of cresting through 2018, 19.
That's when we kind of met.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, that was, you were working with Phil and Jess, and the dental piece was just coming. You were grinding at it, which was great, right?
Yeah, literally.
And there was a lot of visibility, right? And a lot of the money partners that were in town were doing a good job of kind of cultivating the scene and cultivating new startups, and there was places to go. I ran a startup, startup meetup for a while called 1 Million Cups, and every week we were having a new founder that would come in and talk about what they were building and where it was. And it wasn't about getting funded. It was about founders talking to founders about what the real journey was like.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a lot of activity and there was a lot of buzz, and I'm not going to blame COVID, by any stretch, because I think we were starting to do some things where the money partners, the dynamics of the way those investment funds work is starting to come into challenge, and so, they need to. The structure of a fund, generally has to show a return within a certain amount of time, and so there's a 7-year window where they're going to invest in you, and it has to pay out back to their general partners and their limited partners.
Okay, so technically they have to break even. They like to break even around year 7 and then maybe start making profit.
Exactly, and the model says we're going to be investing in 20, 30, 40, whatever the size of the fund, and we just expect that some of those are going to go away, some of them are going to break even, some of those are going to be, hopefully, our rock stars. And that kind of pays for it. Well, in doing that also, if you choose to make money with your money as an investor instead of making money with your time as a founder, you start looking for how to grow that, how to do more, how to make more, right? And so those funds tend to start looking towards later stage investments, more solid companies. And so what happens is everybody wants to swim upstream. And that leaves early stage founders right? The garage guys,
Yeah.
really trying to do something. Whether they have something or whether they don't, it leaves them. We're not shining a light on them. We're not helping them the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think we're in one of those periods where we're seeing that trough. We're not seeing a lot of that because angel money it's not left, but it's harder to get. I think the scene suffers from it. And then on top of COVID, being the challenge of just pulling us away from each other, right?
Yeah, I think there's possibly a lot of entrepreneurs out there, but they're not sticking their head out because there's not really any money out there, right?
There is money, but looking for money is a whole. It is a career in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been through it, right?
Well,
you were able to focus on the technical aspect of the work,
Yeah.
and had partners that were running through the grind of getting it out there and looking for investment and support.
Yeah. What's a comment? I had a viewer, Zach, out there. He had a question for you, and it was, how important is controlling your growth? Because innately, as an entrepreneur, you just want to go,
Yeah.
and reinvest all the money back in the business. And I was talking to him, I'm like, it's okay to pay yourself. So can you
Hopefully you are.
Can you give us to our viewers? Can you give us your 2 cents on the statement controlling your growth, and what does that mean to you?
One of the earliest pieces of advice I got was build a mess. We'll clean it up. There's time to clean it up later.
Okay.
Right. A lot of people try to really measure growth, plan growth, right, and build the right way, build sustainably, and perfectionism can really hurt you. Right? Velocity is your best friend, whether it's time to market, whether it's time to prototype, whether it's, whatever you do, you should be pushing yourself on a daily basis to move faster than anything else out there. So,
So you're saying that Zach should listen to his gut and just keep his head out and keep the tempo going.
Bulldoze as fast as you can. Keep things moving. Don't try and slow down. I always look at trying to create your own opportunity, right? Luck is when preparedness and opportunity meet.
Yeah.
Right? And that takes, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's really common that you'll start in a startup, you'll find a lot of people that are like, and especially in this town, you'll get slow no's. You'll get people that are, a slow no is somebody that says, God, that's a great idea. And you get all those endorphins, those feel goods, because now they told you, they validated you, right?
Yeah.
But what we do a horrible job of in this area, and to startups in general, is we don't talk to people about the traction in your business should be you're making money. The people that are paying you money is the people that's the validation you need. Okay,
so you get a startup, you get a founder, and they might have listened to advice saying follow your passion, don't do it for the money, right? And then so they find something that's following their passion and not doing it for the money, and it actually gets some money coming in.
Yeah.
And then, but then breaking that to the next level is going to be really difficult, right? In some sense, because it is somewhat about the numbers or the money, right?
It is.
Yeah.
If it has to be about the money as a proof point. We give so much credence to somebody following their passion.
Yeah.
And passion will drive you headlong into a wall because it will put blinders on you. You will start not paying attention to the people that are directing you towards things that are going to make your business more sustainable. Right? Yeah. I'm not talking about being solely money focused. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Right? That's not what I mean. But at the end of the day, product market fit is when you have proven you have something that the market wants and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
right? And if they haven't done that, then you're still a startup. You're still experimenting.
You're still trying to figure it out, and it's a hard thing to realize, like, hey, maybe my product's not good enough.
Yeah, it's really, really hard.
So coming through your desk, is there a lot of still software startups, app startups, or is there any hardware startups going on?
Yeah, really interesting. I think there are hardware startups, and it's always, obviously a lot more challenging because you have, rigid manufacturing cycles and things that you need to do, right? The cost of developing those things is just significantly greater. That's why generally there's a lot of money in it, because in technology, because it can scale faster than you can put bodies at it, right?
Yeah.
You scale infinitely, you put something up in the cloud, and the cost of the revenue that you can make from 10 people versus 10,000 people, proportionately you're not paying as much. But there are hardware startups out there, and I think we're finding that the generic platforms that we have, we need some more specialized.
How long does it take for you to figure out, when you meet a founder, you kind of hear their idea, honestly, how long does it take for you to figure out whether that thing's going to be a hit, or that person has flaws in their personality that's going to hinder them from reaching that next level?
That's one of the hard things I had as being an advisor. I've got no magic wand. I've got no. I'm certainly not smarter than 3/4 of the people that I meet that have their ideas. I've heard this ever since I started dealing with investors, advisors in the startup scene. They want founders that are coachable.
Interesting.
And you develop a radar for people that really are genuinely trying, and people that are just, the process. When you're a founder, there's no lack of advice. The websites, podcasts, people, everybody's going to give you an opinion, right? Yeah. And learning how to tune that out is really difficult because, like you said, having to understand what your product may need to change or to become successful is difficult, right? And how do you filter out people telling you those things? So I think if you've been around the startup scene, you start to recognize founders that have that focus. So I don't know how long it takes me, but I think you start to recognize them.
Yeah. So
people
the key attribute is like, how much focus or grit does this individual have?
Yeah.
To kind of get this thing going.
Yeah. Well, and we've become a Shark Tank society, right? We don't see the 5 years of work that those people have put in, and we see the edited version of them for 4 minutes on stage.
How has Shark Tank? It's helped the community, kind of, in a sense of like shining the light. But how has it hindered the community in your opinion?
I think we now have some sort of visibility that there's an exchange of equity for money. But I don't think we don't understand. We don't step on the other side. We don't see, what Mark Cuban is looking for. We don't look at it with that lens. One of the things founders do all the time is they keep trying to sell you on their idea, right? They keep talking about why theirs is whatever, because they're going to spend the most time in their head convincing themselves, and getting outside of that lane is really tough.
It's very tough.
And when people meet money, or people meet people and that are interested in the business, that's one of the things that we do, right? We just try and sell them and sell them and sell them and sell them and sell them. And I think Shark Tank's kind of fostered that.
Yeah.
Right? We don't really understand how to look at our business holistically and talk about our business. We keep trying to talk about the product, the
service,
thing, the service, and why it's so important. And we don't realize that an investor is looking for, if I give them this, then in a given amount of time, I'm going to make money. And so usage of money and becomes more important than, everybody loves it, everybody needs it.
You make a good point, because the most inventors and designers I know, if they go straight to an investor, they're just going to go get crushed.
Yeah.
Your organization and yourself is your good starting point to kind of go, hey, before you go start, prancing around asking for money, let's make sure you have your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And, you can download a template for a pitch deck, right? Okay. But what's the narrative? What's the story? Why is this there, right? The founder's experience. It's one of the things that the investors don't have, and founders never realize this, right? The founders that I meet, very often they want to have the right type of investor, and it is important, but they also believe they're thinking of that investor like a co-founder almost. They're really looking at them to fill in this gap.
They call that active. I want an active investor.
Exactly.
I've heard this mantra numerous times. End of fourth quarter of this year, I've had some friends looking for money. I don't want to give an investor money unless they're active.
Yeah.
They have to be in the trenches. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. I'm sorry to interrupt. But go on.
No, it's absolutely right. And it's funny the way people think about it too. I was in a meeting with a couple of founders, and one of the smarter investors that I know. And it was a very mission-based thing, and we should go into mission-based.
Perfect.
Because I firmly believe in it. I also believe that it has to be a business with a mission, not a mission with a business.
Okay, let's go talk. Let's segue into that, because that's getting my ears all perking up right now. So to repeat that, a mission. Okay, I'll have you say it again.
Yeah. Now, if you are a mission with a business, then you're kind of looking at the cause being primary over the economics of the business, the viability of the business, right? The Tom Shoes model, right? That everybody points to, something like that, right?
Where the founder almost embodies that product in a way that there's no separation. This is like, this guy is Tom's.
Yeah, I would even say I've met founders that would say what's more important is that we're giving shoes to the countries in Africa, right? Okay. They would say, I started the business to do that. And the business became ancillary. It became secondary. Yeah. And it becomes almost irrational for investors to be able to understand it and to do it. And you can do that at the expense of your business. And I think I firmly believe in doing good in the world and being, giving and giving back is one thing, but what's the analogy that when you're on a plane that's going down, air mask drops down, you've got a kid, put your air mask on first and then put it on your child. Yeah. Right? Because if you die, you can't do something to help the ones that you're with. And you have to think about a company being able to do that, to do the good that it wants to do. Mm-hmm. If it's got a product, and a side benefit of that is this. Okay, so I need to stand corrected here, because I've told people, and hey John, what's your business's mission? You got to find a business mission. Well, you're saying take it to a deeper level and have what's your mission, right? And not the business mission. So take it onto yourself. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it really is. I think there's a great local success story. Seiko Designs, Liz Bohannon had gone over to Africa and had met some some phenomenal people, and she realized that in the country she was in, the women were not able to go to college. Right, they were not able to go and get education, and she basically made a commitment that she was going to find a way to support them. And she's one of the exceptions. She's literally one of the exceptions for the people that have done this, because she knew what she wanted to accomplish and then came back and figured out how to do it. And originally started having them build sandals and sell sandals, right? Wow. So she would ship the raw materials. They would build the sandals, and she built a store that was selling those over here, right?
Yeah,
it was a phenomenal idea, and it was great. And she's been able to scale it, but she took the mission and built a really solid business model out of it.
Okay,
right, and then was looking for the ways to support that mission with the business in a solid way.
So you're asking entrepreneurs to dig deep, and it's counterintuitive, and I'm glad you're talking about it. It's almost self-authoring in a sense. So how are you knowing this information with the startups that you are mentoring? How do you apply, or have you thought about, maybe I'm going towards more of a counselor and getting on a deep level, like, hey, what makes you tick?
Yeah. I think...
Has that changed since 2014? Or maybe 2016, 17, as you kind of grow towards, how do I say, the more inward towards the founder than before you even touched the business model?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, trying to think of the best way to frame it.
Oh, wait, hey, Dave, I'm here to talk about my business. Well, no, let's talk about your personal finances. But maybe that's a hard truth that they need to hear.
So in any company, the company will take on the character of the founder.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they just will. Right. It comes from the top down. Right. And the smaller the organization, the closer you are to that founder, the founding team, and that influence of what they believe in absolutely matters. And so I treat it with a brand lens. Brand is not what you say it is; it's what everybody else says it is.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
I mean, if you mention Nike, they're going to say performance, athletes, cool, all those sorts of things, right? Yeah. But it's like when somebody says character is what people say about you when you leave the room.
Yeah.
Right? That's what becomes more important. And so I think you can't ignore that going in to a startup. When you're starting up, you're trying to figure all those things out. You can't ignore that those things that you believe in, your attitudes, that culture is going to be directly from you. So I think you have to be on a journey of self-improvement.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be doing that, because if you haven't done it before, if you haven't built an organization where people are going to follow you, you need to understand what that responsibility is.
Yeah, you're in the community. You have to act in accordance to being, and that's something that I drew from you when I met you, because you're so active in the community, and it kind of threw me off. And I'm taking inspiration from that, because I'm like, wow, that's something that, is a very key attribute for wealth creation, is this being involved with other people. And, Allie's a perfect example. I think that's a common friend that we have. She's very involved with people. There's been months where she hasn't talked to me, and then randomly she'd send me a text. Yeah. It's like, hey, I have this party. You haven't RSVP'd.
That's right.
So it's like she really puts herself out there and networks.
She does. She's an amazing example. And just a roundabout, one of the first parties that I went up to at her place, she goes, "Oh, you should meet my dad." Yeah. And I start talking to her dad, and he invested in the startup that brought me over from Portland. I was living in Portland. I was working with another startup.
What?
He invested in that startup, and it was just this crazy circle of connection.
I don't know much about Ali's dad, but I'm sure there's an amazing story behind it.
He is. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, to his credit and testament, he's, you know, I think one of the things that Ali does is looks to empower people. Mm-hmm. Right? You talk about being a member of the community. That's one of the things when I first met Ali and started talking to her about what she was doing, she was really kind of at this pivotal point. Dynamic Events was her other company. Yeah. And that Hub had started to get some recognition, success, and momentum. And she was really talking about how it was going to scale and change. And she was talking about these, you know, internal shifts to empower people in her company. Yeah. And that's one of those founder things that you just, you know, it's exceptional when you see it, because the culture that creates is one where you have individual leaders that are trying to lead. You're not trying to push them down with process or structure, or, you know, you're not adhering to my vision. You know, she values the contributions of her team in really interesting ways. And I, you know, that's one of those growth things. Yeah. Right? That's one of those things you have to learn, because to expand your influence, you've got to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's very unorthodox to, you know, let's talk about your product, but let's also talk about, you know, you and your ambitions and why. Well, you know, I want to talk about sales. I want to talk how I'm going to grow this business, and, you know, who I need to hire and what active investor I can get on. But it's like, no, it starts with you.
Yeah.
It
is. I think there's things that we, I'm not trying to suggest you be duplicitous and live a secret life, but there are certain conversations that you need to be intentionally having about those growth and strategy pieces. And then there's the way you talk to the rest of the world about what you do. And those are very separate. Yeah. Right? They're very, very separate.
Yeah. I when I first started IDT, I'll tell a little story here. I was drinking a lot of alcohol, and I had another founder. I won't say his name, but it was pre-Phil. Yeah. Well, he left the company because of my drinking. And there was a point where I got a DUI in Oregon City, and we were going to different like engineering meetings and design meetings and then now I can't drive. So he was responsible, like, no, now I have to take you everywhere? I'm like, yeah. So it really hurt the morale of the company. Yeah. You talk about like private virtue, public virtue. I wanted to keep a life of young Portland life, drinking, and then you know, one day do my hair. I'm I'm innovative dental technologies. I'm doing this. Right. So, but it's so impossible, because once I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, you get to a level, you are making money. If that leaks out, what I'm actually doing, that's not maybe people would want to look up to, it could ruin everything. Yeah. Right. And I love your approach with that, because it's so true. It's like you have to level up in your integrity and your self-confidence.
I made a decision a long time ago to live in a glass house. What you see is what you get. Right? I used the joke. I'm not.
So you're saying there's fake entrepreneurs out there?
Absolutely, because
the bank teller kind of, hi, I'm. They talk to you like a bank teller, or what?
There's probably about 6 people that popped into my head as soon as you did that.
Like, just be real with me for a second. I see right through you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, being a founder is the process of lying to yourself.
Wow. Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. Being an entrepreneur is the process of lying to yourself.
It is, but it's in a good way, right? Think about like a Tony Robbins approach, right? Okay. Talk about affirmations, right? What do you do to tell yourself, despite those inner voices? You know, there's going to be days you're not going to want to get up. It's like, no. I have something good. I'm on to something good. I'm the right person to do this, right? When all the evidence is not giving you the traction in those early years, in those early stages, you have to lie to yourself. And it is a lie, but it's a constructive lie, right? So there is a certain amount of self-deception that you should be doing to help you move forward. Problem is, don't get stuck believing that lie all the time and ignore the clues of what the rest of the world is, telling you either about your product or about your business or something else. And that's where I think that's where that passion thing comes back in when we say you've got to have passion. Yes, you do. But that determination, that grit becomes a little bit more important, because grit also says you're willing to work hard, not just talk hard. And you've got to be looking for the right path to make something happen. So you're exploring and you're letting things in. You're not just pushing things out.
Wow. Yeah, it's having the realization too of, if it doesn't work out, it's other ideas out there. I feel a lot of entrepreneurs, they're so amazing, and even designers, they're so amazing designers that they get crushed on their first, and it's just over for them. And then it's just like, no, you have a talent to nurture. And so how do you deal with someone, to tell them to get it back up when their first startup fails, because they've convinced themselves, they've been giving themselves affirmations, this is it, this is it, this is it. That's right. And then finally the wall just hits them and the market goes, it's not good enough. Yeah. Or you were too slow. How do you pick somebody up?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny, the thing that occurred to me, I go back to my creative direction. And
maybe there's no answer to that.
Design work. I don't know that I have an answer.
That's so ingrained in who they are and their upbringing and so much. But I just feel that I'm not introduced to enough entrepreneurs that tried and failed and then got successful. I haven't seen most of the ones in Vancouver and Portland specifically have tried and then they stopped.
Yeah.
And I know Mike Tyson talks about, he was more interested in the fighters that lost their first couple fights and became champions than the ones that, So.
Yeah, and you would, if you talk to, listen to the investors behind, behind closed doors. First-time founders are a huge risk. They just don't know what they don't know, and investors may not be able to shepherd them through the things that they need to be successful, right? So there's a huge variable if you are a first-time founder. So there's been a lot of discussion about failure, right? First of all, failure isn't failure. It's learning how something shouldn't have worked or didn't work or something, right? So, changing your lens on failure, I think, is really, really important.
Speaking about failure, why are so many entrepreneurs scared to fail? They don't want to be. They want to be perfect. You think it's just?
Well, look at it this way. You talk about Mike Tyson, right? Phenomenal talent. Who has that talent, and who curated, cultivated that, fed it, promoted it, right? We don't look at the ecosystem around that individual. We have this hero lens and say, he would have made it no matter what. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. There's plenty of people that didn't follow or didn't have access to
the training that he had.
All that training, the personnel, the money that came alongside and believed in him. I think that's one of the exciting things.
Go. Tell me. I see a sparkle in your eye.
No,
it's exciting.
Well, I was going to say it's one of the things I love about things like The Voice right now, right? Or even American Idol, which arguably jumped the shark and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think what we're realizing is we're listening to exceptional talent that lives where we never thought it was, right? We look at, I was going to say Ariana Grande, right? Or these top talent, these pinnacle, Neo and all these guys that are the top of their game. And we just think that there's the best. It's not a zero-sum game. There's a phenomenal artist that exists in Iowa who's singing in their closet because they're deathly afraid and they've never had the same opportunities. They're just as talented. And we don't understand that. And so I think I love that from the perspective that we don't need to become the next perfect thing. We can create, there's an opportunity for us, and we can be exceptional and have incredible success if we push and create those opportunities.
How's the startup community in Vancouver going? I remember you believed in Vancouver before Vancouver. I'm going to give you that credit, because when Phil told me that there was an incubator in Vancouver, Washington, I looked at him and I'm like, really? And now it's like we got the waterfront, everything is starting, economy is booming. It in a sense that I have more hope for it, but you believe in Vancouver. Props to you. So how's that community going? Is there still a group going on? Is there still good ideas and good concepts you want to talk about? Yeah,
there is. I mean, certainly, I work. My day gig is foremost, right? We build software, custom bespoke software. We do it for some of the great companies here in town, and so. They've never had marketing, and when I came on, it was a chance for me to just be who I was out in the community, talking about that, and those people, right? So like I said, Foremost has built projects and software for some of the companies that I was advising, right? So my day is a little bit more focused on who is doing something, who's building something, who has budget, who's doing whatever. But the ecosystem is, we're paying attention to the ecosystem. It's one of the things that we never did, right? When I started talking about it, I started just knocking on doors. I do this all the time, driving by and I see a business there and I'm like, who are they? What do they do? And, instead of just Googling them and finding out, I'm like, I'll call them, I'll talk to them, right? And that's one of the things that this area has not done. Yeah. But that's what really got me connected to people that were building stuff. As soon as I started talking about it, I was finding, 75, 100 startups that were all building something.
In Vancouver?
Yeah. And this is anywhere from, people that were building software to automate SEO on your website, to you guys, right? Innovating the dental industry, right? It was all over the board, but the community wasn't pulling you together.
No,
and that's what I think. There's still an opportunity to do that, and because I'm focusing a little bit more on companies that are funded or software that we're building. I want to start pulling together the rest of the ecosystem to support what I was doing as a grinder, right? The grinding of knocking on doors, talking to people, and doing everything else. I want the rest of the community to start realizing the value of that.
And that value is just I'm starting to, as you talk about it more, I'm starting to understand. So we just talked about grit. We talked about that, having your personal mission, and you don't know what you don't know, but the only way you really know is unless you have a community.
That's right.
So you're saying, hey, I'm going to get everybody in Vancouver that's an entrepreneur. We're going to come together. And this is not a pitch deck. This is not some guy's going to be talking. It's us literally going to get together and let's see what happens and let's help each other out. Yeah. Is that what I'm getting?
It is. And you have to hear the right voices in your ecosphere. Right? Your mom and dad telling you you're special and you're a great idea and it's going to make tons of money may be useful because it's an emotional encouragement and we need that, right? There's that piece of support that we need to help us move, right? But they may not be able to give you market advice. They may not be able to give you technical advice. They may not be able to give you manufacturing advice or whatever you need, right?
Wow, I really misjudged you in the early beginning because we were involved in WeWork, and I absolutely hated going there. And I'm going to be completely honest because I would go there and it was like a beauty pageant.
Yep.
And everybody was told what they wanted to hear. I would be telling people like, yeah, that's a good product, even though I would never buy it. And it's just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
The coffee's free, but it was like there was no realism to it, or they didn't want to even build a community to be able or learn about me enough that if they did criticize me, I would be able to take it because I value that person now.
That's right.
But that's an interesting approach that you got going on with this, that's amazing.
Well, I think there are two things that I think of all the time, or based on what you said. We call it with my crew, the people really tight to me that are influencers in this area. We call it the Portland Nice.
Portland Nice.
Yeah, and it's really bad because it's.
Is it like giving everybody a trophy award or a participation award?
I won't say it's fake because it's not. It is genuine, right? They will tell you that it's nice because they want to support you. Yeah. But what they're not doing is they're not shifting that lens and saying, I don't believe that works. Do you believe that works? Or something else, right? And I say this all the time, honesty without love is brutality.
Honesty without love is brutality. Wow.
If you tell somebody something with the intent to harm them, whether it's truthful or not, if you don't have compassion or empathy for that person that you're talking to, then it's just abuse, right? You're trying to either be more important than them or something, right? There's some other thing going on there. But if you genuinely realize something and about what somebody's doing, I think we should be telling people more of that.
Yeah,
I really do. I think we've done our community a disservice with a lot of startups over the past, I'm going to say probably 5 years. Where we've really just encouraged ideas because of the feel-good piece of it, and we really haven't scratched the veneer of it to say, is there a business there?
Yeah. Funny story. I'll give you a funny story here.
Yeah.
I like your analogy because it reminds me of someone who sucks at singing and no one ever told them they suck, and then they go all their lives and they wasted all that time when someone could have told me.
Right.
Yeah, and my story was that early on, before Relief, I wanted to be a rapper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my friend Aaron Jackson, he heard me rapping in my room, and he opened the door and he goes, "Dude, you suck." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, man, you're not good. Dude, you're not good. Just please." And we're still friends. I call him all the time. And it was so honest, so true. I laughed a little bit, and it made me sit down in my chair, and I was like, am I going to be Kid Cudi? Am I going to be, Jay-Z or, Kanye West or whatever, these lyrical artists? Am I willing to sacrifice 10 years, 20 years of my life for this? Yeah. I'm like, no. See, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for being real.
Yeah. And I think what's amazing about that is you hit on something, right, is that self-reflection that you hit without that inflection point, without somebody coming in and saying that. You don't get to decide, am I going to really knuckle under and figure this stuff out, right? Am I going to get better? Am I going to train? Am I going to study? Am I going to do whatever, right? When we treat people with kid gloves, we don't give them that opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And I think is, I think that's a shame. So I'm always very cautious of it. I realize, certainly when founders come to me with ideas, I'm messing with their dreams, right? And the worst thing I could ever do is take away hope.
Yeah.
But here's the other piece of that I don't think people understand is you have to understand that there's a process and a evolution and a something else. And you hear about this if you kind of look at Actors Studio, behind the scenes of people talking about movie making, and the genesis from script to the collaboration with the writers to the actors that come in and the vision of the director and how the director is that what gets made throughout this entire linear process is not what you envisioned in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think there's a great analogy for a company, right? If you believe you have a really solid idea, you have to know that it's going to evolve. If you don't know that it's going to evolve through the process, then you're shortchanging yourself, and you're just trying to ram your idea down the world.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, the entrepreneurs that I know that have been in business longer than, let's say, 5 years, 6, 7 years, and as their business gets better and it grows, they are a completely different person. Yeah. So it's like what you're saying is like, as the business grows with the individual. They both have to grow in a sense of like, who are they becoming?
And I would say evolve.
Yeah.
Right? There is an evolution, right? You just, to start out with a single software product that fills a need that you perceive, right? And you're one person, and if you're not putting in metrics to understand the way your customers or people, your beta users or whatever it is, how they're perceiving it and making the appropriate adjustments, and conventionally and potentially changing it to a completely different business, whether it's a different business model of, moving from B2B to B2C, or whether it's becoming a subscription service or a one-off consultative.
Yeah.
You have to understand that there's this fluid, dynamic life of an idea to become a success.
Yeah, someone told me that happiness is evolving and continually being evolving. It's not like once you reach that end goal or that $1 million or whatever, it's like the moment of evolution, like where you're in that moment of just working on something. Yeah. Right? And I love how you're touching bases on that. Like, this person can they be coachable?
Yeah.
Can they, it's so fascinating. And I share that with you, that fascination of just the mindset of an entrepreneur or a business owner, that calling to go, I'm not going to work for that security, that 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because my search titles on Google are geared towards that, but I'm feeling and I'm seeing that a lot of people are just like giving business more of a try in their head. Like, man,
Yep.
They don't, they don't want to do Grubhub anymore, or they want to work the 9-to-5, but they like, I want to go off on my own. Whether that's, and I'm saying it in the sense of that most people, you don't have to build a product, you don't have to do a software app. You can just start a janitorial company or a pressure washing company.
That's right.
And be very, very happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
but I'm seeing a push towards that, like as an option to people, like, than before, just what kind of job can I get? Who can I work for? And now, granted, there's a place for that, and don't quit your day job. I'm not saying that being an employee is bad at all.
Yep.
But I just feel that nowadays, in my community, there's a lot of people giving it a second thought.
I think there's a couple of trends. One, you saw, during the downturn, 2007, 2008, people losing their jobs. And we call it forced entrepreneurship, right? Now I'm out of a job. Oh, well, I've always had this idea I want to work on, right? And so you saw a surgence of ideas happening then, and people kind of, whether they were, turning consultants or whether they were actually starting companies. So I think we need to get pushed out of our comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. We've heard it forever, get a good education, get a good job, the 40-40 plan.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think we question that enough, right? Andrew Yang talks about it. He started Entrepreneurs for America? I can't remember his organization. But he started to realize that what was happening is out of the Ivy League colleges, Wall Street mortgage bankers and the like were poaching the top talent, right? The top mathematics talent. And those people were getting jobs at, outrageous salaries. With no direct education or, with no direct job experience, right? They were poaching them. And so we were taking some of this top incredible talent and putting golden handcuffs on them. And so he put the idea together. They were going to use that same strategy, but align those top individuals with startups and really talk about value creation, right? Because if somebody goes and becomes a mortgage banker and is making $250,000 a year base salary and whatever on commissions, they're probably not looking. They're probably not hungry to try and make ideas happen, right? But if you start to show people, get people in the trenches with people that are fighting against, odds of success and using, innovation and creativity and all these, God-given talents to make something and create something that you're proud of and that you believe in, you change their life in a whole new way. And that's what I see in startup is I love that tenacity and people that are trying to build amazing things.
Yeah, I think Elon said that there's too many lawyers out there, not enough entrepreneurs. Right. Everybody wants to be a lawyer or a physician, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it's too easy. It's the easy path.
Yeah.
Was it the road less taken, the road less traveled, right?
Yeah. What's your most excited startup in Vancouver going on right now?
God.
I know there's probably more than one, but is there something that kind of like, these guys have been at it for a while, you kind of want to give them a shout out?
I think Class Hero has been doing great stuff.
What do they do?
They've been, Amay Laud has been at this for a long time and really kind of built, you wouldn't call it AI, but it's curriculum planning that goes inside of early education.
Wow.
I think he's been doing some amazing stuff. He's been one of those grinders, and I think
COVID must have really helped him a lot because everybody seems like they want to be homeschooling.
And they haven't made a shift, right? That's been one of the things is how to transform it to what the market needs, and slow industries are always a huge challenge. Right?
So education was considered a slow industry?
Yeah, it runs off of 2-year biennial funding cycles and all that kind of stuff. So it can be a huge challenge. So I think he's been doing a great job. We've had some really good successes lately. Michael Pan is going back to the Shark Tank effect. Michael Pan is one of the guys that went through my early accelerator and was working with him to do package redesign and a bunch of manufacturing work. Made it onto Shark Tank.
Wow, really?
He did, and landed a deal with Mark Cuban.
Gosh.
And that's another.
I think being that having him in somewhat of a Rolodex. That's value enough, right? Because it's you are who you are, who you hang out with, right? Hey, that's an interesting thing. So if you get Vancouver entrepreneurs together, they're starting to hang out with people who are like-minded. Interesting.
The ecosystem players, right? We don't talk about this enough, right? Exited founders. Exited founders, people that have had a significant exit, people that have come in.
Oh, okay.
Allie, right? Yeah. Hub has just gone through a great transformation or a great acquisition, and she's become director of product internally in that new company.
And getting it ready for IPO.
And absolutely, right? So she's got invaluable experience, right? Because she knows the day when it was her in her garage. Right, and she's completely humble about it and accessible and everything else. Right, the value of her education. Jeff Holov over at Stream, Brian Hamilton with RealWare. Right, all of these guys that have had, success. Jonathan Evans.
But how do you get these guys that have made it to talk instead of talking about themselves? Really want to be interested in the individual. Yeah. Because it seems to me
it's a time issue.
Yeah,
every one of them is sincerely a genuine person and just great human beings, right? These guys are really, really solid and want to help. Trying to find a way to do that in a way that fits their life schedule, their work schedule, because they are building new things, right?
That's true.
And there's a real pay it forward to community organizers, right? Is we're doing it just because we love it and want to support, the community and what's going on.
And by the way, I want to tell everybody there's no hidden agenda here with you. You really genuinely just want to help.
Yeah.
And that's what's remarkable about it. So you're saying that these guys are really busy. Obviously, they work their butt off.
Yep.
They're successful, and they only have an hour Hari. They only have an hour. I can't expect them to walk to every individual entrepreneur and give them that.
That's right.
But then that's where you come along. That's where you come along.
It is. I kind of tell them, I'm like, we need you. We need you anyway.
Yeah.
Right? I get it, but I'm still going to keep asking because I know it's incredible to see that result, in the community. And we're not going to become Boston. We're not going to become Silicon Valley or New York or something else. We're not going to be the next startup hub, right? We're not going to be Austin that has South by Southwest and things like that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. It's the successes that matter.
In your community.
In your community.
That's what really is. It's your local community. I mean, it's what the sidewalks you walk by every day,
Well, and I think that's a huge challenge. We're talking about how we connect as a community, given, I hate blaming things on COVID, right? But the situation we have now, and how do we move forward, which is that we are now working remotely, not engaging the same way. We're starting to find a way to live in our houses, and we didn't know our neighbors anyway.
Hey, we got the metaverse. I can have a pitch deck with you virtually, man. I mean, on Zoom.
I'm working with people that are building metaverse, right? So I get it.
So that must be actually helping your business out right now.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also killing your soul.
It is. It's not selling your soul. It's giving up on a piece of your soul, right?
Oh.
We miss human connection in ways that we don't know. This is where
Okay, so how's COVID and lots of human connection and being unable to get out of the house, what do you perceive that harming? Is it because, what's your 2 cents on
Well,
that?
I was going to say, imagine the journey of somebody that's now 22 or so. Right?
Okay.
Somebody that's 22. Over the past 10 years, since you were 12, what have you had? Right? You've had smartphones, you've had the internet, you've had, social media, right? You've had these no reprisal situations, right? You get to be who you want to be, right? What's the danger of the metaverse? The danger of the metaverse is you can be a monster in there, and nobody's going to correct you.
Yeah.
We don't have laws that talk about you being disruptive, right? Those are corrective issues, right? And you start to lose compassion and empathy in a really big way because you don't feel it. If you touch a hot stove, you feel the fire, you feel the pain of it, and we don't have that. And without that, we can't develop an understanding of how to serve people if we don't understand them.
Yeah.
And so I think, this shift of now spending $3.75 to get a Slurpee from 7-Eleven ordered and delivered to me by DoorDash. I mean, come on. We've just lost that connection to just going out and living in the world that is physically around us.
Yeah.
So
it's like, does it hinder, and it could possibly hinder development in the sense of that idea that would have changed their life has never even entered their brain because they are too busy stealing someone's car in the metaverse.
That's why. So
or going to a Zoom meeting and trying to, and work from home or whatever.
Literally, one of the other things I'm on the board of is we're building a children's museum.
Interesting. Talk about that.
In Clark County. Yeah. Jeannie Bennett has been connected to workforce development, phenomenal leader. Had this idea as she retired that she wanted to put her time and energy into something that was really kind of transformative. And it is a world-class museum that we're planning right now. We've been doing little pop-up events in parks, and getting kids out to play because that play is transformative.
Yeah.
Right? The idea that you grab, whatever it is, if you're outside and you grab a bug, whether you get grossed out by bugs or just that becomes, oh my God, right? And now you just developed a lifelong interest. And we don't have enough of that, right? With a growing population here in Clark County, we need to curate that.
Could the metaverse be a spawn from COVID hits, sales go up for software because Zoom stocks go up, everything goes up, and so they almost get a high, and they almost want to, in a weird sense, they almost want to keep it because they want people to use it. It's not. I'm not trying to say that Zoom has an intention or that, but you can't deny profits.
Nope.
Profits go up. People are home. They use your software more. You're going to be incentivized to want people to stay home and not go to work.
Sure.
Or you're going to highlight things like, why do you want to commute? Why do you want to, have to spend money on coffee every day?
Yeah.
And, not talk to that barista every morning.
They say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
People trying to do good things, right? And I don't think there's no agenda at Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about shareholder profit, right, being possibly counterintuitive. So you have the rise of things like B Corp, where there's mission that actually founders are now able to choose mission over profit.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas before, a CEO could be held, liable, or in essence, accountable for not doing what's in the best interest of the stockholders.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So I think there is this belief of morality that needs to come back into business, and I think that's positive.
Yeah.
Absolutely a positive.
That makes me think about Theranos. The verdict came in. Theranos? Or is it Theranos?
Yeah.
She was guilty of 4 of 11 counts.
She's guilty of 4 counts. It's funny, we were having
because that's
really
a monumental
interesting
case. Because if you think about it, it's the wild west of pitching and stuff. There's a lot of startup entrepreneurs that made the same mistake. She's been put up there. Yeah. I'm not saying what she did was right.
Nope.
But I've seen it come across my desk that, hey, they're just trying to paint the stars.
It is, and we talk about it all the time, right? The idea of, we talk about it as a technology side, right? If you have a belief, I'm actually advising I would love to be advising these. I would love to be working with this company. I'm just passionate about what they're doing. And they put together a mechanical Turk, right? The idea that, I don't even know the genesis of that term. A mechanical Turk is basically the idea that there's a mechanical process instead of an automated process to do something exceptional.
Yeah.
Right? So you would call it smoke and mirrors, right?
Okay.
This is what I'm selling my company as. This is what it's going to do. And behind the scenes, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
My intention is to get there, right? And I think that's what she did in a number of different respects.
But in order to break that chasm, you're going to have to, like we kind of talked about earlier, almost, what did you say? You said you have to almost convince yourself.
Right.
And I think she might have just been just entrenched in, billions of dollars, all the cameras on her, the next Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
She was I'm years and years of just telling her that she can do one sample of blood, can test all whatever.
What was she when she started? 19? 20?
Oh, really?
Oh, she was
young?
Yeah, she really, really was.
Oh,
She was I can't remember. I don't remember the exact age, but yes, she was very, very young.
So you got this young girl with a lot of ambition. And, I don't know. It's a tough case.
It goes to intent, right? It goes to intent to defraud, or at what point was she taking that deception and using it to create something that she knew she couldn't. Yeah. Right? Or did she always have the internal belief that she'd be able to get there?
Yeah.
Right? And was that a transparent process? Mm-hmm. Right? So I don't know. I literally don't know enough about the case. I read through
But we can take something
articles
from that, right? And go, hey, as a founder, you just be a little bit more careful about what you say. It's not, so.
Yeah. I always say you don't lie to your doctor and you don't lie to your co-founders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You just...
So true.
You rob them of the information to be able to support you.
Yeah. I've done that. I've lied. I've done it. I've done the whole plethora of crap you can possibly do. And I held innovations back because I was scared and I wanted to test the founders or the partners, Phil. I would hold innovations back. And then, and we would go through that whole innovation, and spend a lot of money. And then Phil would be like, it's not working out. We go to trade shows, not working out. And then, oh, looks like it's over. Oh, Phil, you better come over tonight. And then I would show him this. And he's like, how long have you known about this, man? Dude, that was a hard argument.
I bet.
Hard argument, yeah.
I bet.
Because I think the mold was like $85,000 for that one mold. And
wow.
It was a big paperweight now.
No.
So yeah, I just, it's definitely true. You got to have that integrity. It's just so much. What's your fear with young entrepreneurs? Do you almost like prefer entrepreneurs that are in their 30s?
Well, there's actually been, a little bit of research about who is more successful, right? And you want the gray hair in the crowd, right? You want to see some of that, some seasoning on the leadership team at some point, because youthful energy is great, but it needs to be tempered with experience.
Wisdom.
And
experience.
Believing that you don't have anything to learn from past mistakes. What do they say? I can't remember the quote. It basically says, wisdom is learning from somebody else's experience versus just being, intelligent or smart. Being smart isn't enough.
Yeah. So. I fear that, I don't know, when I was, it's like older entrepreneurs feel like they may have missed a boat, maybe, or that's a perception, but it's okay. Like, I'm just saying this because my friend just started his business 2 years ago, and he's 35.
Ugh.
And he's rocking it, just killing it, crushing it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just, it's never too late to go after that, whatever's itching at your soul.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. And, I think if there's a lens, I think it should be the pragmatism of, building a business and understanding that it's a dynamic piece of finance, operations, and the team and the product, right? That just because you invented this thing, that the world is going to bow down at your feet, right? We live through that.
I'm interested in talking to some people that have made it or have completed the business cycle, whether that's acquisition. Do they ever have depression after they thought the golden gates have opened? Because I'm going to be real, like after me and Phil we had an amazing 2020, 2021 is fantastic, and I still found myself sad.
Yeah.
I felt like, I was like, why am I not happier? Do you see that with the entrepreneur startups? Like, everything's so data driven early on, and then they finally get those benchmarks of data. Do you ever go, hey man, how you doing? Like, like it's like a fighter out of his prime,
Yeah. It's funny is we're conditioned. Somebody says, how are you doing? And you go, oh, great. Right. Try and work with people. I've always tried to work with people. It's like, somebody's really in the throes of something when they're not going to give you that answer. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think what happens is success is a grind. It is not sexy like we see on a Shark Tank. Somebody, oh, you just got $1 million for your, for a piece of your company. And so I don't think we honor that enough. Mm-hmm. That feeling is the grind all the time. And when you don't have that, when there's not, I call it the peak to peak principle, right? That you climb on top of one mountain and you realize as soon as you get on top of this mountain that you thought was insurmountable, that there's actually a higher peak under the next valley, right?
Oh, wow.
And then another one on top of the other. Yeah. And if you aren't planning for that, if you don't have that for what you're doing, then it can be jarring, mm-hmm. right? It can give you a little bit of pause to go, wait a minute, got money in the bank now, and now you're not waking up the same way, right?
Yeah.
With this tenacity or mission of what you've got to do. I think
like
that planning is important.
Yeah, it's like planning for your will, but it's like planning for acquisition. It's like what's post acquisition
Right.
look like?
Yeah, well, you find it a lot of times, right? People they've got to stick around for 2 years, 3 years after the acquisition, right? And they give them a director title or a VP title or something.
Yeah.
And they just kind of ride it out because the culture of the new place is, for the first 6 months and year, you're integrating the team of what you've built and integrating technology. That's great. And then you start to realize, well, there's now a corporate culture. Well, I didn't want that corporate culture.
Yeah.
I love being the pirate and, tackling big problems and being out there doing, fun, crazy things.
Being able to pivot real quick and...
Yeah, you miss all that. So, so a lot of people, finish out their exit and then they kind of sit on their, pile of cash and figure out what they're going to do next.
Yeah. So you have a young entrepreneur.
Yeah.
When is the right time for them to start networking or going to these events that you host? Is it early as possible, or should they wait till the product is done, or is it too early to have someone come in? Is there sometimes it's like, dude, you're way too early. You need to be in your basement for a couple more months and come back?
No. That's great. It's a great question. I don't think there's ever a too early to get out and network and find other people and start vetting your idea and talking about what you're doing. I don't think there's ever, a time that you shouldn't be doing that. The only too early is you're too early to be asking for money. Okay. That's the most common mistake that I see. There's
too early to be asking for money is the most common mistake that you see.
Absolutely.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah, there's a spectrum. Startup Commons is a great resource, or a company out of Spain actually, but they put these this continuum. There's 6 stages of a startup, and it's idea, concept, commitment, validation, scaling, and establishing.
Okay.
Right, and so the idea is there, and then you come up with, it's like problem solution or those early stages, right? And this is all in your head. They start to put some formal things about what those look like, right? When you start to commit, that means you're going to have team members that are coming on, or you're putting money into developing things. So you can get through the first few stages really quickly. The validation stage is where you have an idea, you have a problem and a solution, and you're trying to prove it out. And what you don't realize is investors don't fund ideas, investors fund companies.
Wow, I'm going to repeat that. Investors don't fund ideas, they fund companies.
That's
wow. Right. Phil put that in another way, in another unpleasant way. He goes, ideas are cheap.
That's right.
Execution's everything.
It's execution's everything.
He grabbed me. He's like, I execute. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I would get pissed off because I'm like, no, ideas. I'm the idea guy. Ideas are everything.
That's
but
right.
Now, getting weathered and a little bit more wisdom, I'm like, they invest in companies.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and that's the mistake, right? And I think part of it is we think like employees. We're conditioned from really early on to think that I get paid to do something. So if you have an idea and you go, let's not talk entrepreneurship,
okay?
Right? You have an idea. You're working at a company. You have an idea for something. You walk to your boss and say, this is a great idea. We should be doing this. Right? That's intrapreneurship, right? Working inside of a company to make change.
Okay. Entrepreneurship, like
they're going to let you. They're already paying you to live, right? Because of the salary that you're getting, and now they're shifting resources to be able to do it. So we have this perception that we should get paid to build ideas.
Wow. I am so glad I invited you this morning. Thank you for coming on. That is epic. Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah. We think about it absolutely wrong, right? And when you think about it, if an investor is spending their money to make money, not their time to make money, they may invest time in as well, but their main thing is, where is a safe bet, right? If I knew, use a shitty analogy of roulette, right? If I knew that everything was showing up on odds or evens or the left side of the wheel or something, right? If I knew that there was something deterministic that was changing results, I would go for that, right?
Yeah.
The only fortune cookie moment that they have is the traction of the market, because they don't know the product. They don't know the life that you've lived, the reason that you see something valuable and working. Mm-hmm. They have no way to judge that in the real world because they don't live your life experience. They don't have your lens.
So what's the difference? When does it change from a product or an idea to an actual company? What's that gauging point? What are those factors?
Yeah, I only have an opinion. It's a huge. Yeah, it kind of rages on. When you stop being a startup.
Yeah, when does someone start being? I would hate when someone called me a startup. I think it was like year 6. Right. I was like, I'm not a startup, but we're not really making any money. So are we?
Yeah. So the basic premise of a startup is that it's an experiment.
Okay.
Right? It is an experiment, and you're looking for a repeatable, profitable business model.
Okay.
Right?
Nice.
As long as you're still in that, we're actively changing, actively working, actively tweaking, trying to fill all this stuff out. If you don't have a model that you can execute for profit, then you're a startup. If you have something that you can execute that is building a profit, then you're a company.
Okay.
Easiest way that I, and does that happen year 1, 2, 10, 20? I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there's some really exceptional companies that certainly because of COVID, they've changed a ton of their product offering and things, the marketing that they're doing, everything about it, what they're doing is changing. They are acting like a startup, even though the company's been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? So are they a startup? Are they worth investing?
Maybe.
Very likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very likely, because they've also got market traction, right? They're using that as a catalyst. They're paying attention to the needs of their current clients.
Yeah.
And evolving and innovating on top of it. So they are definitely a growth company.
Yeah, they call that the CDI method, consumer-driven innovation.
Yeah.
So like when I've read a book called Patent to Profit, and the guy Dan who wrote the book, he's like, if you're going to be an inventor and you're going to make a product, you're never going to stop working on that product. There's no end game.
Yeah.
You're always going to continually have to evolve it, like PS1, PS2, Grand Theft. Yeah. So that really hit me, and it was just like, oh, because I think that some designers or inventors are like, I'm going to get it right, and then I'm going to sit back and collect royalties. I'm like, no, it's a shark world out there. Some guy's going to find a way around your patent.
That's right.
And or someone's going to blow your mind and a different concept how to do it, and you're going to have to be on your toes.
Well, and we talk about a product life cycle.
And we go back to evolve, right?
A product roadmap too, right? Yeah. Is a lot of times, and especially with, your piece is a great example, right? It was a single product that fit a huge need, and you drove. You were paying attention to the market. You had some great strategies about getting kind of in early with the dental techs, and kind of doing that bottom up. I call it fire in the basement
nice.
Approach. Right, is people are walking in and they're like, do you have one of these? It's like the dentists are like, what? No, they didn't show me that.
We would actually target consumers on a dental product, hoping that they would, on a Facebook market ploy, so they would ask the hygienist, have you heard of this product?
Right.
I'm like, why is this assistant or this patient asking me about a dental product? That's for my rep.
Yeah.
So it worked.
It absolutely does. And the idea that IDT is going to develop more different other products and giving it, that's the peak to peak, right? Where are you inside of that, and what's going on? If the company is going to be something versus what you guys did as well, which is a great licensing play to build a consistent revenue stream out of the one product.
Yeah.
It's a huge win, a huge success, right? The company needs to be putting other things in to kind of to build value in the company, not just the product.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right? Those pieces start to become the growth strategy for the company.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just feel that, that one shot, that home run, I think that most designers and inventors, they're trying to hit that home run, and maybe they'll invent other things in the past, but I think of an individual, and she is very talented at design, and it's just like she was hit hard, and I'm like, you're so talented. I know you have other ideas. Just keep going it, because it's innately who you are.
Yeah.
To create, and you're almost like an artist, and artists are very, if they're not creating, they're not happy. Yeah,
it was funny. I realized this. Probably between my wife and my mother, kind of hammering this. As a designer, I worked with some of the best companies in the world, right? Phenomenal, and did ads for the Olympics and
Wow.
amazing stuff, and that imposter syndrome of right. And for me, it was not a joyous process.
Really?
It really wasn't.
It's brutal.
It was mind.
So that particular project for the Olympics was just.
I wasn't speaking specifically about that project. It was about logo concept design. Advertising. Was always.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The nailing the concept, laying up the composition, but the colors, size, fonts, all those things, right? It was stressful for me.
Yeah.
It was really stressful for me. And I started to realize, that anxiety becomes this, interesting circle that you believe that because you're in the middle of can't, right? This can't world, I'm not doing
enough
that you start to believe that you can't again overall. The next one is going to be the challenge. And it took a lot of just plain old jumping off of cliffs and not falling the same way.
Yeah.
That I slowly started, like I said, my wife and my mother just kind of going, do you know that this is what you do all the time? And you consistently, design and develop beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay. So I started to forgive myself in the process of, in the middle of that anxiety, there was just a little bit of perspective to say, oh, this is just the way you get there.
Yeah.
If you don't understand, that's your process. And so, you don't understand history when you're going through it.
Yeah.
Right? It's only after retrospect and paying attention. That's why I say it's a, founders, really it is a journey of self-discovery, because you have to, use metacognition. You have to look at yourself and the way you're thinking and start recognizing these things to improve and to get better.
Wow. That's amazing. No, you're absolutely right. It's who would have thought,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Wow. Well, let's see where we're at here. Wow, hour and 23 minutes. Yeah.
You put a quarter in me, man, or give me a scotch early in the morning. And damn, I'm there.
Any last words thank you for being on. Any last words for our viewers about, if they're, thinking about starting a business, or any little hopes of inspiration? I think you covered a lot of great issues and points, but
I encourage anybody to do it, whether they're good at it, whether they're bad at it, whether they think it's a good idea, whether it's a bad idea. It doesn't matter. I think if you commit to learning through the process of creating value, then you set yourself up on a great journey.
And what's the name of the incubator? Or
So, nonprofit is North Bank Innovations.
North Bank Innovations,
and
I'll put the plug down in the description.
no, perfectly honest. Most of what we're doing is event based. Has been shut down through COVID.
I see.
We do one meetup group. It's called Van Techie. That we do a physical meetup. We're starting to record it, and we're a little bit slow getting started.
Okay.
But there's contact information there, certainly to reach out to me and find out more about what's going on. I am always happy to have, coffee with somebody, drink with somebody, find out what they're doing, and help, point them to somebody that can help them out, or talk to them about next steps. Too.
Okay, perfect. And then you are on LinkedIn. What's your preferred way of getting a hold of you?
Yep, that works perfect. Happy to connect. It's linkedin.com/in/dbarcos. But
perfect.
Yeah,
I'll put your link down below of those two things. But hey, Dave, pleasure to coming on.
This was great.
Appreciate you.
This was great. I appreciate it. All right, thanks.